Hey, co-reporters, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I talked about these teen mom girls, but listen, Love is Blind has been that girl for a while now. So I'm sorry, I'll be back when Love is Blind dies out, okay? So now the Ashley's Reality Roundup has a very interesting story that she just published last night that I really wanted to go over with you guys. So she recapped Briana de Jesus's Instagram live that she did the other day, where she claimed that her ex-boyfriend, Javi Marroquin, used to beg her. He desperately wanted to impregnate her, which doesn't surprise me. I think we all feel like at this point that Javi has a breeding fetish. And we also probably feel as though Kale shares the same interest as him, right? The way that they roll. So it's not surprising. But she did also claim that Kale is still obsessed with Javi, though I do believe that that part is debatable. Do I believe that Kale Lowry is romantically obsessed with Javi Marroquin? No. Do I believe that Kale Lowry wants Javi to continue pining after her? Yes. So if she means it in that context, then I understand. But listen, I have not yet read the article. I only read the title and I decided, why don't I read it for you and with you, right, at the same time. So again, this is coming from the Ashley's Reality Roundup.com. Make sure you check out her website. Like, she's always on the ball, especially with Teen Mom news. She's also got Jersey Shore news. What do you call those people? The challenge news, a bunch of other like reality news in general. So definitely make sure to check her out. So now let's get into what she actually said. So Brie claims that Javi basically stalked her into dating him, which I guess like kind of lines up with how he got with Kale. Remember, Kale used to work at this store called Buckle, and Javi used to come on in as a customer and stuff like often until he finally was familiar enough with her to ask her out. And so that's kind of how everything started off between the two of them. And so Brie and him got together in 2017. They kind of got engaged. Remember that? And then they broke it off in 2018. I don't think it was even a full year, like not a June 2017 to a June 2018. It was probably like a, mid 2017 to early 2018 is what I believe. I just don't feel it. So now, Brie claimed that she started getting the vibes that Javi was into her when she was pregnant, and there goes his breeding fetish, in New York City, filming a Teen Mom segment with her mother and her sister. And Javi ended up going to the special, and he started like flirting with her behind the scenes, which again, she was pregnant with her second daughter, Stella, at the time. And I think she was still in a relationship with Lewis as well. I don't know if she was aware that Lewis had cheated at this point. So that makes it kind of like double odd, but like, what is Javi if not odd, right? So she continued on to say, it was so weird. Now that I look back on it, I'm like, sneaky mother effer. But back then I was like, no, we're just friends. I'm about to have a baby. I had no idea what his situation was with his ex-wife, Kale, but I knew she was pregnant with Lux at the time. So Kale was pregnant with Lux at the time, and Javi was still kind of pining for her. And now his new target is pregnant. Wow, this guy. So then she says that after Stella was born, she went back to New York City to do some more work over there. And Javi, there he is, booking a flight to go over there again. Javi, did you not have a son at this point? Like, you're not too busy to be stalking Briana, of all people. Briana, who lives in Florida. Really? Weird. So she says that Javi continued to message and pursue her. He was heavily messaging her, all up in her DMs, wanting to hang out and do all of this stuff. Wow. Then she goes, she says that she didn't actually even date Javi to make Kale mad or jealous, which again, I believe is debatable. People always tell stories in a sanitized way to make them look as least problematic as possible, right? Like, when you see the way that Brie has been moving recently when it comes to Kale's exes and taunting her and this and that, like, yeah, I don't know. But at the same time, this era, she and Kale had just gotten their BBLs together that they decided to destroy by getting knocked up like immediately thereafter. So it definitely was just like gross and grimy in general that she would even get with Kale's ex-husband, right? Anyway, let's continue on to the quotes as reported by the Ashley's Reality Roundup. So Brie apparently goes, well, I didn't go into it like I'm going to F with someone's ex-husband. No, I was minding my own business and this man wouldn't leave me alone. I was like, F it. What's the worst that could happen? Wow, I should have never said that. If I knew what would happen with him, I would have never done it. I should have done my research and watched previous episodes of Teen Mom 2. Well, no, you should have had integrity and followed girl code, because at this point you were at least like friendly with his ex-wife or his estranged wife at that time, who was Kale, right? Like they were doing the surgeries together. Her, Kale, and her sister Brittany. So why would she even do this in the first place? Like this is what happens, right? When you have no integrity, when you have no loyalty, like the karma does catch up to you eventually, right? Like it's just, I don't know. It was very grimy on her part. So now we get into that weird kind of like attempted proposal that Javi tried to pull on her after dating for just a couple of months. And Briana says, and I quote, "I really think that engagement was to piss someone off." Obviously, Kale. "He only really proposed to me and dated me to piss someone off. I really think the true victim here was me because I was thrown in the middle." No, Boo Boo the Fool, you were not the true victim. You're not. This was your acquaintance, your colleague, and your botched booty sister's husband, ex-husband, or whatever, that you consciously decided to go on a date with, introduce your kids to, go around her kids and stuff. Like you're not a victim. I'm sorry. You're really not. Both of you were trash in this situation. Anyway, she says, "I don't even think that relationship was ever real. I think it was for TV, not by my part, but I think Javi did it out of malicious intent because Kale was having a baby with Chris Lopez." You see what I mean, guys, when I say that people retell stories in very sanitized ways to absolve themselves of all responsibility of the horrible things that they did. Like the fact that Bray would even think to get in, look at them all cozy, grimy in this photo. Like the fact that she would even think to take this man seriously as a suitor, like after having somewhat of a relationship, not even somewhat, like a good enough relationship that you would go do something like that together. Like you guys were sharing like hotel rooms and stuff like that, hotels. Like, oh, come on now. Like, come on. You're not a victim. I don't like that. So now we get into Javi and his famous breeding fetish, right? So Bree says that there was a time that Javi wanted to get me pregnant so bad, but I didn't want that. I secretly had to get on birth control. The tea is hot. Okay, so you get on birth control for Javi, who is a stand-up dad to his kids, but you're not on birth control when it comes to deadbeat Lewis, who's already a deadbeat to his first child, and you're bragging about that like you were smart. Like, I'm sorry, but if I had to get knocked up by, F-Boy 1 or F-Boy 2, I would have chosen F-Boy 2, who is Javi Marroquin, instead of Lewis. Lewis can't keep a job, right? And Lewis doesn't care to keep a job, and Lewis doesn't care to spend time around his kids, and Lewis is just, ugh. You know what I mean? But Javi, as problematic as he is, as many issues as he has, no one can, listen, you can't accuse him of being a bad father because of the way he blows up his relationships and stuff due to his own selfishness and whatnot. But he is there for his kids 1,000% more than Lewis ever has been or ever will be. So, yeah, that was a little bit interesting. So we all know what happens then. Javi went on to date Lauren Como, who was his backup plan. So mind you, when Javi and Brie got into a confrontation once, I think it was in Miami, like about time for her BBL or whatever she was doing, her boobs or something, I don't know. What did he tell her? He's like, "Listen, I've got another girl who's willing to move to Dover right now." So she was the backup plan. Lauren, she was that girl. Now here they are sharing a child together and everything. So let's get into her talking about Kale being obsessed with Javi, shall we? Listen, you guys, again, I have not read this article before. I was like, let me just read it with them. So the Ashley reports it as the following. "My feud with Kale could have been avoided if people weren't obsessed with people or if I had done my research on how Javi and Kale were. I need to stop living in the moment and maybe do my research. I do take accountability," no, you don't, "for some of my actions that happened afterwards, but I never dated Javi with malicious intent. Some people had negative intentions. I wish I was smarter back then to know what's going on, but I'll never date a person where there's another person out there that's obsessed with them. It's terrible." Okay, so there's no actual proof. She has not proven to me that Kale is actually obsessed with Javi. All she's done is continue to victimize herself for a stupid decision that she made to go behind her friend, her acquaintance's back, her surgery sister's back, and date her ex-husband and the father of her son, right? Like, and now we're supposed to believe that Kale is obsessed with Javi just because you say so. I'm sorry, you're not very truthful. So get out of here. So she continues on to say, I remember one time I went to a basketball game with Javi, and that person got messages from Kale. Like, I can't believe you're at a basketball game with Brie. That's stuff we used to do. It was some crazy stuff. I remember having an hour-long conversation with Kale trying to squash all the beef, but that went nowhere. There's so much that happened behind the doors without the cameras that no one knows, but the whole who the F cares, it's years later. I don't know. Does Kale sending a text message like that like mean that she's obsessed with Javi? I don't think so. I think any woman who was in Kale's situation where like they were friendly with the girl and then they got blindsided not only by the girl but by her own ex-husband would probably like send a text like that, at least one text like that. I know I would. I'd be like, what like, who do you think you are? Like, you know, maybe she peeped game on Javi that he was trying, because I remember Kale mentioning this in one of her podcasts, that Javi used to do the exact same things he'd do with her, like there are special things with other women. So it wasn't just Brie, it was also Lauren, it was also all these other chicks that he would get with. So I think that maybe Kale was just calling it out that way, and Brie is trying to reframe it as if she's like in love with Javi or something like that. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't take her word for it at face value. I just can't. So what does she say here? Briana says she doesn't understand why anyone would care who their ex is dating because she doesn't care who her baby daddies Devoin or Luis Hernandez date. Okay, well, you dated Devoin when you were a child, so that doesn't really count. Luis, what were you guys dating for? Like 30 hours before you got knocked up, and then you continued on for a couple of months before you broke up. It's not the same as an ex-husband, right? Apples to oranges here. She continues on to say, nobody should be mad at me for who I let into my personal life, and nobody should be worried about what their ex is doing. I'm not worried about what Devoin is doing or Luis is doing. I don't view them as property. I'm not obsessed with anybody. It's hard for me to understand how people get mad at me for messing around with someone's ex, because everyone is, look, she's so deliberately like obtuse, and it's annoying, right? Like everybody's someone's ex. Well, you don't know all these people's exes, all these men's exes, because they're not your colleagues and they're not like your friends that you take trips with. You know, you didn't visit Dr. Miami with them. Like they didn't see your bleeding, whatever you call those tubes or whatever, blood cans that you take, that you carry on you after you get lipo or whatever. Like they didn't see all that stuff. Like it's very, very different. And she's just being deliberately stupid about it, deliberately obtuse. She's playing dumb. And I don't appreciate that, to be honest with you. It's giving grimy, you know, it's giving hella grimy. You know, one thing about girls like Briana, or people like Briana instead, in general, is that they need to be humbled, and they will be humbled. One day, Briana is going to fall madly in love with somebody, or she's going to marry somebody, and then it won't work out, their relationship. And then that guy is going to maybe, listen, I'm not putting this out in the air as something that I hope happens to her, but life has a funny way of humbling people. Let me tell you that. So let me make a prediction, okay? If one day Briana falls madly in love with somebody, maybe even marries them, maybe even has a kid with them, and then it doesn't work out, and then let's say, for example, Shirley and that guy get together, I better not hear a mother effing peep from Briana, miss. Nobody should be obsessed with their exes. Everybody's somebody's exes. It's no big deal. Don't come crying to us crying, Briana. Don't go airing your ex-friend out over that, because these are your words and you're going to have to eat them one day. That's one thing that I know for sure. She's going to eat those words one day. It's going to happen to her, and she'll see exactly what it feels like. And she's going to react the exact same way that Kale did, maybe even worse. Okay. So now she talks about how Teen Mom fans get on her case about dating her coworkers. Let's see what she does this time when it comes to playing dumb, right? I can see that it is a little weird. I used to work in an office and I would never want to mess around with anyone at my job. I have to see them every day. I see where you're going with this, Briana. You're trying to butter us up so that you can say this is not the same because I don't see them every day. I'm peeping game. I have to see them every day, and that's a recipe for disaster. But these people, I only see them at reunions, so it's kind of different. I am never dating a cast member or crew member ever again. Scouts honor, I learned my lesson. Listen, at least you learned your lesson. So now apparently She gets into feeling like Chris Lopez used her. Look, Briana, poor Briana. She's just a victim. Everyone's so mean to her. Everyone's using her to get back at people. She doesn't do it. She's not malicious. She's not. She doesn't know that stoves are hot. Someone has to tell her. She's, you know, she's so innocent. So here she goes. Now that I look back on it, I was used by a few people to get back at Kale. Now I know better. I know what you're up to. Listen, Bri, you were using Chris to get back at Kale. Don't play dumb with me. I did not forget about the way that you would lean into him and put your hand on his left thigh meat. Do you guys remember that scene where like they were like at a game or something like that? And like she was like leaning into Chris and like, okay, this is his thigh meat, okay? My iPhone is his thigh meat. And she'd be like, oh, wow. And then she even wore his shirt the next day talking about Chris used you to get back at Kale, please. Did he pin you down and force you to wear that shirt? Or did you wear that damn shirt to troll Kale? Stop it. Stop. You know what the thing I don't like about Brea is, listen, she can be messy and she can provide good drama for the show, but the way that she plays innocent and dumb about it just makes it like it's a waste. It's a waste of the good drama that she provides. Like, stand deep in your messiness. We don't believe these lies. We don't believe you're this innocent like girl who has no malicious intentions with people. You do not just go ahead and date your friend's ex-husband and the father of her child. Wouldn't, like, come on now. And then not only that, but the fact that you also go and flirt with another ex of hers and you wear his t-shirt and stuff, like, you're very inappropriate and you know that you are. So let's just own it, right? At the end of the day, let's just own it, Briana. Why don't we make that our New Year's resolution for 2023? We're going to own it. We're going to be big girls. Anyway, guys, how do you feel about all of this? Do you believe, Briana, that everyone's using her to be malicious to Kale, but she's not malicious to Kale? Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.